ever since I started this channel, there was a few horror movies that I've desperately wanted to talk about. John Carpenter's Halloween, which I finally did recently, and John Carpenter's The Thing. There's a couple other ones, but these two are big, and I'm so glad I'm finally being able to do this. So let's discuss John Carpenter's The Thing. I have the Arrow transfer coming. I picked that one over the Scream Factory because for me, it's all about the film transfer, and I saw that that one was better, and that's what I'm going to be watching more than bonus features. So I always go with the picture over the bonus material. Yes, ideally I would have both, but who's got $60, $70 to drop on one movie and then just do it? I mean, Arrow and Scream Factory seem to be doubling up on each other all the time right now. I do want to tell a story really quick because I find it funny, and I also think that it'll make you understand the level of importance this film has to me. I showed this to a girl that I was hanging out with at the time. She had never seen it before. She told me that it was terrible when it was over. I drove her home and I never spoke to her again. True story. It sounds like a dick move, and as I said, like, to people who I've told that story to in the past and are like, oh my God, I think you overreacted. I tell them, like, I've talked to tons of horror fans who are like, I think you underreacted. I think you should have buried her in the desert. And I'm like, I think that's an overreaction, personally. But I think anyone watching this, you know, people who are crazy about this film will agree with me that that was justifiable. Like, we're not going to connect, okay? Nothing's going to happen here. And I don't need to talk to you. The way that this film conveys the isolation and the paranoia and the claustrophobia, I feel like this is a space movie set on land. I mean, they are confined to these small living quarters, and everything outside of their surroundings is death. Like freezing death, just like in space. So this is like an Alien. This is like, you know, any space horror movie. It just so happens to be snow instead of space. You try to go off in that direction outside the doors, you're going to die real quick, you know, without the proper gear on. And even with the proper gear on, you may only have 45 minutes at best. So I've never heard anyone compare it to that, but it was something I thought about when I was watching it this time. Like, this is basically a space horror movie, like, because it's an alien creature and they're stuck in this little, you know, building that's not much different than like the Nostromo from Alien or something. So yeah. And the paranoia, like, because it plays off of that idea. I mean, you could also watch this film as if the whole Thing subplot, well, I guess it's not the subplot, but the plot of the Alien isn't actually happening. And that these guys have lost their mind because they've been there for too long and they're bored. And you see like McCready pouring fucking J&B down into his chess game, and Childs and these guys watching, you know, tapes of the same thing over. And he's like, turn this off, man. I already know the ending of this one. It's like, they're losing their minds. If you could, I've never seen that hypothesized. I'm sure that there's tons of them out there. I was just reading a thread about how they think that Child's not giving off like breath at the end of the movie is suggesting that he is the Thing, and that McCready hands him a bottle full of kerosene and he drinks it like nothing, so that McCready's like, oh, I know it. Like, I saw all these different theories and I was like, oh, that's cool. I didn't even notice the breathing thing. All the times I've watched this now, I've never picked that up. But yeah, that was another thing I was thinking of. I've never seen this. As I said, I'm sure it's everywhere, and I'm way late to the party on that. But you could watch this as a cabin fever type film where none of this is happening and they're all just turning on each other and killing each other, which, you know, is terrifying too. So it works in every way. The score here, I know that there are certain people who don't care for it and think it's a shitty part of the movie. I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I think it's fantastic. And one of those rare movies that Carpenter himself didn't score. I really just like it because it's not overbearing. Like, it just punches it up. It's it's just little quick intervals of it. It's like bum 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 bum. Like, I love that. It's like a heartbeat, you know. It's like the one person who's living, and I don't know. Anyway, I'm a big fan of the score. I don't know why people don't care for it. Now, when this film starts, there's so much intrigue of like, why these Norwegians are shooting at this dog, and they run up and we see this innocent little dog, and we're just like, protect the dog, protect the dog. You know, that's us, that's humans, that's most of us anyway. Some people don't give a shit about animals, but you see it and you're just like, what the fuck? Why are they shooting at this dog with stormtrooper aim? Oh my God, seriously? They fucking throw down a grenade and it misses the dog by like 30, 40 feet. I mean, I've never tried to hit a dog running while flying from a helicopter with like crazy goggles that only have like slits for eyes. So I'm sure it's way harder than it looks. I probably would have a better grip on it though than trying to put it back and throwing it, but you never know. Your hands are icy and cold, and but they just seem to be completely off in every way. But that being said, we get to finally know what they're going through in the prequel, The Thing, which I think is a great film, by the way, so blast me all you want for that. The whole CGI practical effects fiasco that happened on this is a shame and a half, because they did do it all practical, and then the company came and was like, nope, nobody likes that crap. We're going to CGI all over the amazing shit that everyone would have loved. What a bummer, man, because when you rewatch this after it, you see the attention to detail put in to that prequel, like explaining why that axe is in the door. That's nothing. Like, that's nothing in this movie. Like, McCready just looks at the axe stuck in the door for like a half a second, or the wall for like half a second. It's not even a big deal. But they address it in that movie. I'll review that movie eventually, no doubt about it. But it's just, when I rewatch this and I see the block of ice and I see the two-faced monster and I see it, and they explained all of it and they recreated that all the way through. I don't understand how fans of The Thing can't see the love put into this movie because of CGI. That wasn't their fault. They did do practicals. Do your research. Anyway, I'm a big defender of that movie because I think it's like one of the greatest fucking prequels ever. It's such a love letter to John Carpenter's The Thing. So much attention to detail. Anyway, moving on. I love that when McCready is being shot at, that he jumps to the ground but does not seem to spill a drop of his J&B. Like, that guy is dedicated to his booze, and every time he gets a chance, he's like, I want to go to my cabin and just get drunk. Like, and that just gives further credence to what I was saying about maybe this is all in their head and they're all tagging each other. Like, all he wants to do is get drunk. Aren't they supposed to be doing something out there? I don't know what the hell these guys are doing. It looks like all they're doing is like sitting around. So yeah, they've lost their minds. And they can't seem to get a hold of anyone. Windows is sitting there trying to contact anybody, but that ain't happening. So maybe they've been lost out there for a while. That's what that adds to that as well. Like, Windows is sitting there. He's trying to get through. He can't get through. Maybe they haven't been able to get through for weeks, months. Maybe they've been out there way longer than originally planned. Yeah. And, I just love quirky little things in movies. They just add to the film for me. I think that's a huge difference between like an okay movie and a great movie, is like just characters doing small, quirky little things that you don't even really notice on first watch or don't seem like a big deal. Like, for some reason, I love when Knowles is asked to turn down his radio and he's in the kitchen, he's got his radio blaring, and he goes over and he just like pretends to turn it down. There's no one in the kitchen. Like, he doesn't do that for anyone but himself. I don't know why that always makes me laugh out loud when I see it, but it just gets me. He just goes over and he's like, fuck you, just kidding. And it's purely just for him. And oh man, I am such a huge fan of the movie License to Drive with Corey Haim and Corey Feldman. I've mentioned this in another review. Someone called me out and said that it wasn't Corey Haim, it was Corey Feldman, and I was like, they're both in it. Okay, you know who you are. But Clark in this movie is played by Les's father, and it's always hard for me to disconnect that because he's always Les Anderson's father to me. I don't give a shit. He might be my most quoted character in the history of cinema. So when I see him in this movie, I'm always just like, he's great. He's great in this movie. He plays a great role. And he's poor fucking character, man. All he wants to do is protect his friends by trying to rush MacReady because he thinks he's, gonna kill them all. He tries to save the dogs, and then we end up finding out that he's not even a thing. And that's another thing. This film doesn't pull any punches. It's not about giving you happy endings or giving the crowd what it wants or anything. It doesn't give a fuck what you want. Like, he dies, and MacReady is a murderer, as Childs calls him. It's like, it's true and it's not true. I mean, he's defending himself, and everyone's crazy and paranoid at the moment, but they could have done the easy thing where they made him an alien and it wouldn't, or the thing, and it wouldn't make MacReady look as bad, but that's not it. Like, nope. He was totally fine. Like, you killed a completely innocent man, but he rushed him, so I totally understand it. There's so many films that do that. They give the audience like just so you know, he was a bad guy, so now you don't have to worry about it. It wasn't as bad. He didn't know that, but it's okay. We get that in a lot of films. And I love that Blair just tries to shut that shit down. Like, he is the smart character. He's the brilliant doctor, and it makes sense that he sees it. He puts it into his little computer. I think that computer's technology is a little advanced, but that's not really a knock. It's just kind of like, really? Like, how many hours from, it's like 27,000 hours from first contact, the whole world will be. It's like, I don't think that program would exist, but whatever. Which is about 3 years. It's 1,125 days. I actually put it on my calculator. Like, wait, how much is 27,000 hours? So it's about 3 years, which is pretty damn quick when you consider the entire Earth's population. But yeah, he tries to shut it down. I love it when they put him out in the shack and he's sitting out there by himself, and then when they come to check on him, he's trying to convince them that he's totally fine now. I'm okay now. And he has a fucking slipknot, hangman's noose, just hanging right next to him. Like, I'm totally fine. It's like just this thing swaying behind him, being like, he's fucking crazy. Are you kidding me? Don't listen to him. That noose to me is just like telling the audience, like, nah. He's not right. He's not right in the head. We get some yellow sugar glass in this movie that seems to just make an appearance in a ton of Carpenter movies. I see it here and there in films for sure, but obviously one of the most popular ones is when Jamie or Laurie Strode breaks out the window to move the rake. I'm guessing Michael put that rake there. But it's clearly yellow and all the other ones are clear. And this one, when Windows goes over and breaks the shotguns out, it's clearly yellow. I don't know. For me, it's almost like a Carpenter every time kind of thing. Like, I see it in tons of the films. There's just 2-second thing I wanted to mention, but I always mention it. Or I always see it when I watch these movies. How do I even say anything about the practical effects in this movie? I mean, what can I say? They're perfect. Like, they are the bar. Like, yeah, but are they the thing good? Like, no, they're not. Like, I'm just going to say that straight out. People will be like, oh, An American Werewolf in London, or this, or that. No. I mean, I'm not telling you no. I'm not a person who's like, no, this is my opinion is fact. I just personally believe that this is it. This is the best practical effects movie ever. Like, this showcases practical effects so well. And while it does rely on them, because this film would have been not anywhere near as well received if the effects were terrible. Like, this film was really hinging on that working. Like, if Rob Bottin, I don't know how to say his name. If he wouldn't have delivered, and they were shitty. Like, Carpenter, I've heard said that he didn't like the slit wrist guy and whatnot. He said it, looked terrible, or maybe it was the special effects guy himself. Can't remember who said that, but the way Carpenter shot it, the way, the way Dean Cundy did, the cinematography on it and whatnot, it looks fantastic. So I think that my favorite segment, though, when it comes to the practical effects here, is, the chest cavity opening up. I mean, when they're trying to give him the shock and his hands go down, opens up and it chomps his hands off, and then it like comes up, and the neck and the spider head, you got to be fucking kidding me. That whole segment is unbelievable. I mean, the other one, of course, is like the dog segment, and that thing that pops out of the dog, and it's like a flower, and it spreads and it shoots out at Childs. All that stuff is incredible. I mean, you could really toss a coin on which is the better of those two. And all the rest. I mean, don't get me wrong. The freaking, the scene where Windows is getting his head chomped on and thrown around up and down when the dude's face is like popping, and God, there's just so much. It's hard to be like, oh, this is the best. But personally, I think that, the chest cavity, spider head, all of his neck ripping off and falling down on the ground, it's all absolutely incredible shit. Like, you can't take your eyes off of it. I don't give a fuck how many times I've seen it. I don't care how many times I watch the damn thing. If I have my cell phone out for some reason, or someone's trying to, whatever, I will just be like, nope, shut that shit down. I've got to pay attention to this, because it is like, just demands your attention. It really does. It's so fan-fucking-tastic. And I think that another thing that this movie does very well is the film feels very cold. Like, I very much feel like I'm there. I feel like I need to be wearing mittens and a beanie and scarf and all the other protective layerings that I would need in order to survive that. It feels 20 below the entire time. And I know that they shot in a cold soundstage. So it makes sense, because this movie feels freezing at all times. And I also like that when they are going in and they have the blood in the little, petri dishes or whatever, that even though Windows is human, he looks terrified. Now, this could be taken two ways. This could be taken as either A, Windows is terrified that MacReady is the thing, or the thing has, tampered with this test, or the test is going to come out wrong because he has a fucking flamethrower pointed at him and he's just terrified, like, who knows what's going to happen. Or B, you don't even know if you're the thing. Like, Windows is sitting there terrified. Like, do I? And that's the question. Like, do they know when they are the thing? And I think that the only evidence we really see is when Palmer is exposed and the blood is hit and it shoots out of MacReady's hand. He almost instantly turns, like, starts melting and turning into the thing, I guess. I don't know. We never really know what its true form is, why it does that. I guess it's just protecting itself. But I guess that makes it the argument that the thing does know it's the thing, but does it has to harbor its memories of some sort, because he's able to speak English and he's able to talk like him and act like him and this and that. So, and how quick does that assimilate? I don't know. Like, these are all these questions that you want to ask. Does it matter? Not really. But when you watch these movies enough, you can't help but start theorizing and wondering and picking little things and being like, I wonder, do they know? Does he know? Up until that moment, did he know he was the thing? Why did he even let them tie him up if he didn't? That's where my argument comes in. It's like, why would he let them tie him up? Maybe because they didn't know if the blood test would work, and when it did, it was like, oh fuck, this thing works. Okay, like, now I gotta come out and make myself known. So yeah, there's so many arguments to be made here. And the only real minor gripe I have with the film at all, and this is so small that it doesn't affect the film, I don't get annoyed while it's on the screen or anything, but Blair building that little mini spaceship thing down below to me is silly. It just doesn't work for me. I think it's just silly. Like, an alien is grabbing parts from a helicopter and making a tiny spaceship underground. I don't know. It's a little too much. It's a little too far-fetched. But we're talking about a monster movie here. It doesn't have to make sense. It's just the one thing that takes me out of the film a little bit when it happens. Anytime I see that ship, I'm like, really? Okay, come on. And another question that this film raises, and I've definitely seen a lot of this throughout, films that I've seen, towards the end especially. But once they realize they're fucked, like once they realize, like, we're not getting out of this alive, like MacReady says, like, we're not surviving this night. Like, we got to make sure it doesn't as well. Could you yourself sacrifice your life for the greater good? That's a question I ask a lot when I watch some certain movies like this. Like, could you? It's so easy to be like, well, just do the right thing. Like, yeah, until it happens to you and you're sitting there and your life is on and you have to die for the greater good. Like, they could have tried to hold up somewhere. Like, once he said that, they could have been like, no, fuck that. Like, I'm going to go hole up somewhere. Maybe, the distress signal got out and the helicopter will be coming and we'll be rescued at any minute. Like, I'm not dying for this. Like, fuck the human race. Like, I'll risk taking this back. So yeah, that's another question that's posed here. They all seem to just jump on it so quick. Like, Knowles has a like, oh shit, fuck, like, I don't want to do this kind of face, but he goes through with it anyway. But I do really like that this movie also. And MacReady's, yeah, fuck you too line for me is like a smile, you son of a bitch. Like, iconic end line. Like, it's one of the top of all time in my opinion. Like, I don't feel like it gets enough credence. Maybe because it has a cuss word in it. But smile, you son of a bitch. Although we don't actually hear bitch. That's when the thing blows up. But it's just, yeah, it's one of those. But I guess cuss words don't really take down away from. There's certain movie quotes that have cuss words in them. I don't know why that isn't loved more or talked about more. But I think it's a fantastic, like, end line. Like, kill the monster end line. There's so many terrible ones. There's so many decent, good ones, whatever. And then, there's ones like this that I just think that are like if I said that, I think any horror fan would instantly know what I was talking about. And another thing is this movie just leaves you wondering. Like, most films give you an answer. They do, like, in a lot of horror movies would have done that cliche, like, roar at the end, or a possible sequel or one last scare kind of thing, and this movie's like, nope. Like, we are gonna leave you guessing forever, unless, of course, you consider this to be part of the storyline. Now, I've always considered this, and this to be one solid trilogy. We do get the answer of what happens in this. This starts like right after this movie. And this crew comes to try to see what happened. The compound is completely recreated. I don't want to give it away for people who didn't know this existed and want to check the game out and want to see where it does go. But this actually does answer. They're all called The Thing. That's not confusing. But even Carpenter himself was a big fan of that game. So I think I read somewhere that he considers the game to be canon, but I don't know. I could be talking out of my ass on that one. It doesn't really matter, but I like that it gives you the answer, and it's just like that, I don't know, spin-off, alternate universe, what if kind of thing. Like, if you want the answer, there it is, and you can always use that as an example of an answer, or you can also just take the film itself and be like, oh no, this is the answer. But anyway, yeah, guys, all right. I think I've talked enough about this. I could obviously talk about this all damn day, but I do want to try to keep them a little shorter than like 40 minutes like the Halloween one. All right, well, moving on to Christine, which I have already watched, so I'm going to do that right now.